I want to cover this story, even though there's nothing in it for me to cover this story. Here we go. The Washington Post, the Colorado massacre cannot be blamed on mental illness. It's rooted in hate. It cannot be. So that's called jumping to conclusions before you know the story, and you have a political narrative that you want to now use a murder or a mass murder to forward your political opinion.
Is it extreme homophobia, both a mental illness and hate? It's called phobia. That's a mental illness.
Yes.
I mean, and it's rooted in hate. So, yes, it can. So,
that's the Washington Post. That's November 21st at 1:51 p.m. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She says Lauren Boebert, she's holding responsible.
Yeah.
You have played a major role in elevating anti-LGBT plus hate rhetoric and anti-trans lies while spending your time in Congress blocking even the most common sense gun safety laws. You don't get to thoughts and prayers your way out of this. Look inward and change. So she's coming down on Lauren Boebert for this. Yeah, Boebert, you don't get to thoughts and prayers your way out of this. You're going to have to do a full puff piece interview with Ryan Grimm. Then both Ryan and Emily have to cover that puff piece on breaking points, counterpoints. There's a process, okay?
Then we pick you out a gown to write your message on.
That's right. But you know what? Too bad for the Washington Post and AOC. Colorado club shooting suspect is non-binary. Oh, well then, I don't know how to feel about this mass shooting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I believe without question anyone who merely claims to be non-binary. I'm not a monster like Lauren Boebert.
Right.
But on the other hand, I really want to blame this on Lauren Boebert. I guess you could say my feelings on this are non-binary. Come on.
I'm having a lot of non-binary feelings about this story.
So watch this. So this
is great.
She's going to report the news that I just reported to you, this news, that the shooter is non-binary and uses the pronouns they, them.
And she already, you can see from her panic that she was really committed to this Lauren Boebert thing.
Yes.
And it's like, she doesn't know what to do.
Now they don't know what to do. Watch, they don't know what to do. Because the shooter says that the shooter is non-binary, right. They, them.
And no one would ever lie about that for gain or to
and you
do
can't
something.
challenge people on that. So
nor should you?
You're not allowed. Like if there was this. Well, let me just play it. Let's just play it.
So attorneys for the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote,
did you see her smirk? Like, I don't believe it. Hey, I'm telling you right now, you're not allowed to do that up until now. You weren't, just like with the hashtag Me Too up into Joe Biden being accused, you weren't allowed to not believe hashtag Me Too. You weren't allowed to not believe people who said they were non-binary up until right this second.
And she's not fully prepared to do that. She wants to.
But she did it a little. Right. She doesn't. She's afraid to do it.
I mean, what do I do here?
Right. But watch. She can't hide. She had a microaggression. Watch her thing. Watch.
So attorneys for the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote to a motion asserting legal privileges, the public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they, them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich. So in other words, not Mr. or Ms. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Lewis, also back with me, Al Franken and Joe Walsh. I don't know what to say about that. I mean,
I don't know she doesn't know what to say about that because you know what she wants to say about that. She's not even allowed to think this. She's not even allowed to think that someone who says that they're non-binary and uses they, them isn't being sincere. You're not allowed to question it.
It just doesn't happen.
So now she doesn't know what to do. So she's going to throw it to the black guy and hopefully they'll be shielded by his minority status.
I just hope he's got enough blackness to cover 3 of them.
Yes, I hope he has enough.
Al Franken's going to take up most of it, so I don't know if there's enough for the other 2.
Let's see what happens.
not anything that we had heard from his background. You know, people have been looking into his background, and I don't know if anybody here, are you guys lawyers? I mean, you know, I don't know if...
No, and none of us want to say shit about this, okay? None of us want to...
I'd like to have mine present before I answer any more questions.
Yes!
I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
It sounds like they're trying to prepare a defense against a hate crimes charge. That's...
Oh...
I don't know if Errol's going to be enough.
I don't know if you're allowed
to... Chappelle, buddy.
I mean, that sounds like something Chappelle would say.
Yeah, and this guy is not going to get...
I love how the news lady short-circuited. The suspect claims to be non-binary. I don't know what to say. I'm scared for my life. Errol, you're black. You want to say the thing I'm afraid to even think? And he said it. He said it.
Oh, now it's just a waiting game.
Here we go. Let's back it up. Here it is.
That's what he's now saying.
It sounds like they're trying to prepare a defense against a hate crimes charge. That's the least of his problems, legally speaking, but it looks like they're trying to build some kind of sympathy or at leleast confusion on the question of whether or not this was purely motivated by hate.
I mean, that is what it sounds like. We'll wait to see.
That is what it sounds like. We have to wait to see.
That's the least of his problems legally, but the most of our problems socially.
And so that's what, so you're not allowed to do that. I mean, this puts the wokerati in a conundrum, right? At this point, if they say he's faking, they're admitting that people can lie about their gender at will. That's a big no-no. If he's not faking, the narrative crumbles and they have egg on their face forever.
I was going to take 2 or 3 more for sure, because Tara Reid should have been the end of Me Too, but it took an Amber Heard. And by the way, 130 feminist groups signed an open letter. They still support her.
They still support her after
like a
that.
mass credibility suicide they committed.
After she lost in court with a female judge.
Because they probably got paid.
With a female judge.
With everything stacked again for her.
Yes. With
she
everything,
that much of a liar.
She's that much of a liar. She lost.
Yeah. So I don't know which one this is. If this is an Amber Heard one or if this is a mere Tara Reid one.
So here, I just want to show you. This was MSNBC. So CNN, here's MSNBC doing it. Let's watch.
LGBT community has always been a subject of hatred for a certain brand of fringe kind of person, right? But something happened in March and April of this year. And in March and April of this year, as the far right-wing conservatives sort of got over CRT or critical race theory, they needed a new boogeyman. And they leapt on LGBTQ community members, specifically trans people, their doctors, their caregivers, libraries that had books that were LGBT focused. This was really just sort of the cause celebre on the far right. Since April, we've also seen a 1-to-1 correlation with violence, harassment, assaults, real world violence in this community. Pride events were disrupted. There were 31 neo-Nazis were arrested back in August at a Pride event in Idaho.
So she's quoting that bullshit psyop.
I thought it wasn't disrupted because thank God they caught Patriot Front before they did what exactly?
Before they showed up.
Showed up and were mistaken as part of the parade in their little outfits.
She's just again, that was obviously
librarians being assaulted, trans librarians being assaulted. It's just been
trans librarians were assaulted.
Bad.
I didn't hear that.
And the rhetoric has ramped up so much that it's people that we were talking to since April about this, that were the subject of this, they were saying repeatedly, we're waiting for an instance of real world violence where people are going to get killed.
And here it is. And we've also seen, and there was a lot of...
And here it is. So they're just making this up. They don't know anything about it, but I can use this mass murder to further my political agenda.
Oh my
God. That's not knowing anything about it.
And here it is. A non-binary did it, so that's awkward.
Conversation about this. The Denver Post covered it about drag shows being targeted. What is going on with that?
Yeah, because they targeted drag shows a lot, and in part because Drag Time Story Hour, where a drag queen would come, it was ubiquitous in libraries all over the country, had it. A drag queen would come.
Now, this is where I don't know anything about this. No, I always like drag queens. I always get a kick out of drag
Right.
queens. I always like them. They're very entertaining.
Yeah, nobody violently attacked a drag queen. That didn't happen at all. What happens if people protest it? And then people who show up and are pro it will get in fights. Nobody did that. I mean, she's wow. That's really something, man.
But this is ubiquitous in libraries across the country that kids go to hear drag queens
Who goes
read
to
to them.
libraries is my first question.
First of all, who does go to libraries?
That's not homeless sleeping there. I haven't heard of that. Kids. Secondly, this idea.
Why
that,
do drag queens want to read to kids? I
Well-
thought being a drag queen was about going out to a drag bar and having fun.
because they think it's some kind of like.
Because
I mean,
but drag queen is.
Like,
let me ask
yeah,
you this: drag queen isn't being isn't a transsexual. That's a different thing.
transvestite.
No, but a drag queen
No,
doesn't identify as a woman, right?
no, I think it's usually like a gay guy that dresses up.
Yeah,
like
it's just that's a different thing than a
it's like a
transsexual.
Vegas adult act is how
Right,
I
it's
always
like
thought of it. But that's because to spread it. See, look,
Isn't that a gay guy? I don't know. I'm ignorant on this. I thought I knew what the drag queen
what
was.
I don't get is this: the people that they think this is important, like we got to get to the kids and show them drag queens are good early.
Why?
The kids that you think that you need to reach with that for some reason are not going to be at that show. The kids that are going to be there are people that are already real cool drag queens, or they wouldn't be bringing their kids there. So I have no idea what it's what it's really for.
I didn't know about that.
Oh, it's.
I didn't know it was ubiquitous. I didn't know that there. Anyway, so let's listen to the rest of what she says.
Read a story. It was fun. The kids loved it. And then also some sort of friendly drag shows. It would be on a Sunday brunch. You could bring the kids. They'd see a show. And
Yeah, those are a bit odd. You didn't see that with it, and on
What?
the wall it said it's not going to suck itself. It was the last one there was a protest on while they're doing striptease and putting dollars. Yeah, it's real creepy.
Drag shows.
Yeah,
Again, I must be ignorant, but
You
I've
are.
been to. I remember when I first moved to West Hollywood. I saw several drag shows. Those are not
kids?
for children.
yeah, no, it's insane.
If that's what they're doing, but maybe they're doing.
The story.
Why do
thing-
kids want to see men dressed up? I don't
Because
understand why
who's
kids
gonna
would want.
bring their kids. Who would bring their kid to that unless they're hoping, like, oh, I take him to basketball since he was young, hoping to play basketball. It's like.
But isn't I always I'm not an expert on this. I'm learning as I cover this story. I always thought that being a drag queen was all about sexuality. It was all about sex.
Well, you know how the gay pride parade is about
No.
Disney now.
Mhm.
It's ruined.
And so now
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of things going on here. Yeah, it's insane.
I'm really not the guy for this.
The story hour, I don't really whatever on that.
What?
People, but the shows like
taking a kid to a drag
Yeah, the
show?
dollars
Isn't
in
it
it,
like taking a
yeah.
kid to a strip show?
Yes, it's exactly that. You put dollars in, they give them dollars to put in the thing.
I thought that.
You hadn't heard about it?
Dude, I know. I'm again.
There's this move
this
to make
was
it not like it's
just
not
hearing
sexual.
hearing this lady say this was mind blowing to me. That it's ubiquitous, and then they would see friendly drag shows.
Oh, I thought that was Mike White in drag, the director of White Lotus.
There we go.
far-right conservatives left on this, and they put it together with, frankly, the QAnon narrative that's been out. And it was, they're out to get your children. The demonization, dehumanization, and moral panic around children in our community somehow being threatened by LGBTQ teachers, librarians, performers, that is the thread that's going through. And when you demonize someone to that extent and you make them feel like an existential threat to you and your children, it's no wonder, again, that we get this kind of violence.
So one of the key things we're looking for at this.
So she made a direct correlation.
Wait, I can still take my kids to a hetero stripper show, right? That's still okay legally, isn't it?
I mean, I really don't want to feel like a square. I don't want to be the old man. That you still think you shouldn't take kids to strip shows? I guess I don't have kids, so
It's
I don't.
okay if it's drag. Hetero would be.
That wouldn't be
on.
okay. That's not. I mean, I don't know.
It's obvious. Why not? I mean, it's not. It's crazy.
Okay. Well,
It's
isn't that
crazy.
anti-woman?
Well, I think.
What about Chippendales?
What kid? Who even remembers Chippendales?
I'm waiting for them to come and read at the libraries.
Yeah,
When did the
Right?
Chippendales?
Woo, come on, Chippendales.
Just a lifestyle choice of being a. I honestly, I don't want to sound like an old man who's out of touch, so I won't talk too much more. But so they pointed out to her on Twitter, this woman, she says, yes, I said this. And while we don't yet know the motivation behind the Colorado Springs attack, I think it's pretty good summation of the right-wing moral. So even though I don't know down here she says, yep, I said, oh, by the way, I just wanted to show you that she got ratioed on it, of course.
Yeah.
She got 572 likes and 854 replies when I took this picture. So even her own people watching her thing and following her don't agree with her on this. And someone says, while we don't yet know the motivation, I'm just going to go ahead and insert my own narrative here. Journalism 101 in the 21st century.
Yeah. They kind of outright
even
said
though we
that's
don't
how
know
you
what,
do it.
Even though we don't know what the story is, I'm just going to go ahead and make it up.
Yeah, narrative driven journalism, it's called, I believe. I think there's a term for that.
And I advocate for LGBTQIA plus E to be not discriminated against in housing, in employment, that they in love and marriage, and that they should all be treated with dignity and respect. And I think that used to make you an ally.
That makes you a conservative Republican.
But if
I'm for my kids sticking dollar bills in their G-string. It's not sexual. It's just to teach commerce and capitalism.
why would you want to do a show for kids?
Because, well,
why, if you're a drag queen, which I love drag queens, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of drag queens. They're fun.
To normalize it, like, it's
why
not
would
a
you
sex
want to
thing.
do a show for kids?
It's like a thing about normalize. You ever heard the term normalize? That's what it is. And also,
You mean like it's some kind of
I have to believe a lot of drag queens are not that insane to like, we got to do it for kids, but I'm sure it's a younger generation. Like when you're talking about an older generation, it's a whole different, that's the age of the Joan Rivers gay fans. And now we're in I would never, I like Nanette gay fans.
So I like this. This was a good tweet. Well, maybe if the judge had not dismissed the bomb threat he made, the shooter, they can't call him he, the shooter they made to their mother in 2021, the red flag law would have worked as intended. And I don't even agree with the laws written. I'm going to look up the judge. Betcha I know his political affiliation and funding. This was preventable. So I think this person's a right winger and saying that there was probably a lefty judge, right?
Well, at least now we know the guy was non-binary the whole time, because that's why the judge must have dismissed it.
Who knows? But now here she says prosecutor, not judge.
Prosecutor, it's probably prosecutor, just like the guy with the Kyle Rittenhouse.
But here is one little piece of info that is interesting. The shooting occurred Saturday night into early Sunday morning on the start of Transgender Remembrance Day. Did you know this?
No.
Which honors transgender people who have been murdered. So you could kind of see like that person probably did pick that day to do this, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to remember it now.
So it looks like it'll be a Remembrance Day to remember.
That makes me think it's because how would you know it's that day unless you are non-binary? I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of it either. So maybe that guy really is non-binary or that they person.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I have to believe them because they said so. So it don't really a moot point.
By the way, the CNN people did misgender.
Yeah.
That they.
Oh, that's right.
After they said it was they them, they then referred to
I don't
they
think
as
Errol
her.
can cover
him.
that mistake with just his blackness. I think there's going to have to be some atonement for that.
So how about this? I think Ryan Knight gets it right. He says no other nation in the world is producing this many mass shooters because no other nation in the world has a political and economic system that breeds as much inequality, terror, and violence as the United States. How about that's the reason? How about our system of inequality? How about that? We have inequality that's greater than the Gilded Age.
And by the way, too many of them are white males, and we need more non-binary. So welcome.
By the way, look how the Washington Post, the story about this, it led off with Lauren Boebert can go to hell. That's how it started off.
That's an article by a...
In the Washington Post, but then they deleted that part.
So it opens by damning Lauren Boebert to hell for this. I don't even know what the connection is.
Well, I guess Lauren Boebert, they talk against, you know, the
drag shows for kids. Thanks a lot.
I don't know.
Lauren.
I guess, and stuff.
Did she say don't gay say Bill? I was gonna say.
Hey, I don't care if you're a drag. I love drag queens, and if you want to read to a kid, I don't know why you would, but good for you. And if you're a parent and you want to take your kid to hear a drag queen read,
Yeah, that I'm like,
what?
But the thing
that
of,
seems
like,
weird to me.
the
But
thing of the stripper thing with the dollars, I think that's a bit much.
But then taking them to a drag show, I always, so maybe it's been too long. It's probably been 25 years since I've been to a drag show. So maybe they're not as sexual as they used to be when I used to.
No, they are. It's ridiculous. But there's a whole push to make these really sexual things like they're not. They're empowering. Stripping's empowering. There's a whole thing like that. This happened way back when. Remember when everybody was taking stripper pole exercise classes?
Oh, remember that?
I had a girlfriend. I think I'm going to take a.
Remember we went
stripper
from
class.
we
I
went
go,
from
why? Are we
50
broke?
Shades of Grey
Yeah.
to #MeToo in like a blink of an eye.
To
Every woman was reading about getting spanked and tied up
Yeah,
and
right.
humiliated, and then
Yeah.
they went
and they
right.
they didn't like it.
Sure.
So stop. And then from there we went to child drag shows.
How do women reconcile that in their head about
What?
going from? Was it like that was the number one
This
selling
is-
book,
this is
that
not
50
most
Shades
women.
of Grey?
It's coastal, city, urban, Sex in the City generation. Like living lives are vastly different from just regular people. That's how they get in their head. Just watch Sex in the City. It's like that. Whatever the next generation of that is, that's how they reconcile it. It's insane. It's real upper class. You
Like
really
you
see the
couldn't,
divide.
you know that swimmer we covered, that
Mhm.
swimmer who was a mediocre male swimmer, then became transgendered,
Mhm.
and then was doing great,
Yeah,
right?
that champion. Yes.
That champion.
The best woman. Yes.
Now, if we were to say what they said on CNN, if we were to say, I don't believe that person is really sincere,
Yeah.
and I misgendered, what? Because they do misgender.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that because I'm not a monster.
We would get in trouble, but now it's okay to do that all of a sudden on CNN to misgender someone.
I thought they handled it with class because you'd see she wasn't sure where to go. She knew to defer to the one black guy and
Yeah.
hope for the best. Al Franken knew to keep his trap
He
shut.
kept his trap shut.
And we'll see where the chips fall. Hopefully, this is just a Tara Reid moment and not a full Amber Heard destroying all the progress. we've
Well,
made.
again, if I come down on the side of the
non-binary mass shooters.
of drag queens, I always thought they were fun, a good time. I liked how wickedly vicious they
You
could
know,
be in their insults.
Yes, that was a thing for adults. That's fun.
For
Now,
adults, it was like an adult comedy show.
even the drag queen, the drag like shows, it's not so much the drag part, it's the stripper aspect. Like, I don't think you would take a kid to, you don't take your daughter to a junior strip show. Like, that seems like a bad thing, you know?
But I have to. Maybe we should get a drag person in here to talk to us and to educate me, because I always thought that a drag person was just a gay guy who liked to dress up and have
It
fun
is.
until. But it's not about like they're gender bending, but it's not about them feeling. I don't know. Who knows? I should get one in
No,
here.
yeah, right. It's not. It's a drag queen's a different thing than somebody
Yeah,
who's
it's different than
yes.
a trans person.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Over to the binary person.
All right. So I remember like when drag shows are supposed to be kind of like edgy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's kind of like
Edgy.
Gay
it's,
Pride Parade, not a Disney thing.
right.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be family oriented. I always think of drag queens like
How
the
can we
concept
co-opt
of
your thing if we don't make it family oriented?
Right.
How can we corporate co-opt
A family
every last
or
inch?
so that's what's happening, Steph. They're having family orientated drag shows.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see it. And so
Why would you
my
want
problem
that?
is when I've seen those, I'll see a young girl, a kid in the audience, right? And then the drag queen is like, lip syncing to wet ass pussy or something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, I think that's too sexual for a kid to be around. So like, I think that's like where it's crossing the bounds for me. It's
Yes,
like,
of course.
I don't need to sexualize my little kid.
This is not for sex. It's to teach you to commodify yourself young. Just that's the good thing about it. They stick dollars and you make money doing it. Whatever it takes, kids, to get $1. That's the overall thing. And then this is like a fun. It's really not like, I'm sure people doing it are maniacs, but the overall push of this stuff, like on MSNBC, that's getting you trained early about like you'll do anything for $1. That's on everything.
No,
I
come
think
on.
so.
I don't mean to be. I don't know.
I think
I
so.
don't want to be
think how these people are such craven careerists, all of them. They all didn't know how they felt about the non-binary story and had to look to the one guy because all of them are trained. Reality, I mean, is anybody a lawyer here? I can't just speak freely, right? That's how it's supposed to be. I might
That's
lose my
what she
career.
said. Is anybody a lawyer here?
Yeah, that's the lesson for everyone from child to adult, nonstop.
We had heard from his background. You know,
She just misgendered him. We heard of his back.
Well, we got the receipts.
So here they are misgendering him. I mean, I'm doing it too.
Yeah.
Here they are misgendering they.
It's
It's
like
funny
the knights who say knee, yelling at you. You said it.
his background.
They just did it again.
Yep.
She did it twice.
You can see Al
I don't know
Franken
if
caught
anybody
it.
here, are you guys lawyers? I mean, you know, I don't know if I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
She said she just did it again. 3 times she misgendered him. Let's see if our guest does.
It sounds like they're trying to prepare a defense against a hate crimes charge. That's the least of his problems.
They did it again.
Oh!
They did it again.
Not going to POC your way out of that one, Errol Lewis.
Oh.
Well,
They misgendered him. They. I did it.
yeah.
How do you not? This is the first time I've ever referred to a person as they.
Think of it as the royal, like how the
The
queen
royal?
says we.
Yeah.
Think of it as royalty, royalty terms. You know.
Again, I'm a big fan of drag queens.
I mean, but that's binary. You need to go.
Okay. We'll see you November 26th. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving in Burbank. And then all December, we're going to be in Los Angeles doing Friday night shows. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member. While you're there, you get all of our videos unedited. jimmydore.com, not Jimmy Dore Comedy.